You see a lot of people discuss the ideas and theories for the future Marvel films coming up, so I think I should do the same because the first film we have coming up is Captain America Civil War, and a trailer for it is just released, and it's looking quite different from what I expected, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Now what I'm predicting for Civil War is that they're going to take one thing from the comic at least, which was in the comics at the end of the Civil War story, Captain America was presumed dead. And this and a bunch of other subsequent storylines kind of got to Tony and he had a breakdown and became a recluse. And I feel like something like that is probably going to happen because of the way I think they're going to go with Infinity War. But I'll get to that later. We have Doctor Strange coming up with Benedict Cumberbatch. Not really much to say about that because, well, we don't know anything about the story other than it's Doctor Strange. That's really it. Then we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which is obviously going to do a bit more world building on the intergalactic stuff, have at least one other Infinity Stone, maybe even the last one Thanos needs to have all the stones in the Infinity Gauntlet and be like, yeah, I'm ready to go and kill all these guys, and that'll be the following year. Actually, yeah, Guardians is the 5th of May 2017 and Infinity War is 4th of May 2018, so almost exactly a year. Interesting. And then we have Spider-Man. We don't really know anything about that other than some of the cast choice. We don't even know who the villain is. We're probably going to have to wait until after he shows up in Captain America Civil War to get any ideas about that. But Thor Ragnarok is an interesting one, because the Hulk is going to be in that one, after going off into space. Now, a lot of people are thinking the name Ragnarok refers to the evil robot clone of Thor that was introduced in the Civil War story in the comics, completely ignoring the fact that Ragnarok is the end of Asgard. It's the apocalypse for Thor's people, and considering what's been built up a bit in the last Avengers film, it's obvious to me that this is actually just this big huge battle, and there's been some build up towards that as well in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 1, where they introduced the Enchantress and Loki wants her in his army. So, you know, Loki's going to have his army of evil Asgardians. You got Thor leading his group, Odin's gone missing, everything's going to hell, and then Hulk shows up, maybe gets controlled by someone again, maybe helps Thor, maybe he's just a complete rage monster and starts fucking everyone up. But what's important is this is likely going to end the same way the comic story did, at least to an extent, with Asgard mostly if not entirely destroyed, and Thor missing in action, presumed dead, and Hulk will likely join him in this version. And again, this is important for Infinity War. Then we've got Black Panther, which is a thing. Again, I think we're going to have to wait until after Captain America 3 comes out to get any ideas about what's going to happen with Black Panther. Which is weird, because we see Black Panther in the trailer, he's clearly going to have a bigger role than Spidey, and yet we have to wait longer for his film. So then we have Infinity War Part 1. What I'm thinking they're going to do, because a lot of people kind of thought this is what they might be doing, is phasing out the original Avengers team. Because people were saying this like a year ago, maybe 2, that they're probably going to get rid of all the old guard, and Part 1's about the new characters, and then Infinity War Part 2 starts up, or Part 1 ends, with all the old characters coming back, along with the Guardians of the Galaxy and other galactic heroes, and they're all going to come in and just kick Thanos' ass for Part 2. Because going back to my idea for Civil War is, you know, Cap is presumed dead. Tony becomes a recluse. He's not Iron Man anymore. He's given that up. He's like, oh my god, I got Captain America killed. And then you got Ragnarok, the end of Asgard. Thor and Hulk are both presumed dead. So the only core original Avengers left are Hawkeye and Black Widow, and I get the feeling that they might kill one of them off, probably Hawkeye. They could be controversial and kill Black Widow off, that's also a possibility. But either way, those two characters are going to be phased out somehow, or if not, they'll be like the only old guard left and they're just normal people. So all the big heavy hitters like Hulk and Thor and Iron Man, they're gone. And so by the time we get to Infinity War Part 1, the team will likely be Hawkeye and Black Widow if they're still around, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, War Machine, Falcon, and maybe Bucky. Which is still quite a few people, but most of them are just normal people or people with pretty good powers like Spider-Man, but not like the ones you would use to fight a god. And that's where the team's going to have problems going into Infinity War. Following that, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I don't think they've even said if it's going to be a prequel set in World War II about the original Ant-Man and Wasp, or if it's to follow on from the end of Ant-Man with Hope getting her Wasp costume, and then it's going to be about her and Scott. Nothing been said yet. We'll probably have to wait until around the time Thor comes out, I'm thinking. Now, maybe they've not even decided. That'd be funny, they're like, we've got this film, what's it about? We don't know yet. And then there's Captain Marvel. My guess is that they will include the original Captain Marvel, Marvel, in the origin story. I imagine he'll have a role similar to that guy who gives Hal Jordan the Green Lantern ring in Green Lantern. Like, his powers will somehow transfer into Carol Danvers. How she'll be in space, I mean, let's face it, it's coming between the Infinity War films. Obviously she's going to be in space somehow. Maybe they'll do a thing where she was captured and taken away from Earth herself, a bit like Star-Lord, and then she'll meet Star-Lord in a post-credit scene, and there'll be this thing where it's like, oh, we're so similar, a kind of hint at a romance that won't go anywhere. Or maybe she'll bring word to the Guardians, or they'll find her on their way back to Earth, and it's like, alright, let's go back to Earth, because Thanos is there. Because the Guardians can have a reason to go there. They've already dealt with Thanos before, and it's like, he's going for Earth, and Quill's going to be like, no way I'm going to let him take out my home planet. We're going there, and we're going to kick his ass. And then Infinity War Part 2 happens, Thanos is killed, obviously, a bunch of people die, and then we get the Inhumans. They did this thing in the comics recently, where this mist was released that turned a bunch of people into Inhumans. I'm thinking they're probably going to do something similar. I really get the feeling that what they're going to do is have it that the Inhumans are going to be a result of the fallout of the events of Infinity War. Like, something will happen that will result in loads of people becoming Inhumans. I've heard that the Inhumans have also appeared in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I can't say for sure because I've not seen that far, but still I feel like that's the direction they're going to go. Really the big questions, I'd say, would be how will the TV shows play into this stuff? Like, will we see characters from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. popping up in Captain America or Infinity War? I mean, since Phil Coulson is still alive, I feel like he has to show up at some point, because, you know, if he's not going to show up in the films again, there's almost no point in having him stick around and live. And then there's The Defenders, you know, that show coming up on Netflix, and I'm not sure if they've said it's just Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage and Iron Fist on the team, or if people like Punisher, who are also introduced in their shows, will join them. That will be interesting to see, I think. I think with the shows it really becomes more of a thing of, the shows don't circulate as much as the films do, and because there's a lot more content there's a lot of episodes per season, and it only takes like 2 episodes to be about as long as a movie, it's a much bigger time commitment, and it might be considered unfair to expect people to sit through all these shows to know what's going on. But then if you don't have that stuff show up in the films, there's almost no point having the shows at all, because then it becomes a question of, well, if this story isn't important, why are you telling it? Overall, I'm feeling pretty positive about the Marvel films going forward. It'll be cool to see some characters who never had a shot, like Black Panther, Captain Marvel, finally getting their shot that they really do deserve, because they've been around for a long time. And we might get even more obscure stuff, because Marvel hasn't talked at all about what their plans are post-Infinity War, which I find really interesting. I imagine they will closer to the time. I mean, unless they want to do this big thing where they keep everything under wraps and then Infinity War comes down and it's like, surprise, here's all the stuff we're doing next, because we didn't want to spoil anything. Doubtful, because they still talk about contracts of people whose characters could die in a film, and then it's like, nope, they're not dead. Characters I'd like to see get their own films. She-Hulk is a definite top choice, because she really does deserve one, I think. And because we've already got Bruce Banner, obviously you've got the easy justification for it to show up. They could do it as Incredible Hulk 2, with her showing up in it. They could share a film where it's Hulk and She-Hulk. They could do She-Hulk with Hulk as a co-star. There's a lot of ways you could make this one work. Second choice is Captain Britain. If they do Captain Britain, there is one character they need to get in there though, and that's his sister Betsy, better known as the X-Men Psylocke. But you might look at that and say, well, they can't use Psylocke, she's an X-Man. But Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch fall into an odd grey area, where they're both so heavily ingrained in the Avengers and X-Men history that they considered both, and so Marvel and Fox can both use them. And while Betsy is best known as an X-Men character, she started out as Captain Britain's twin sister, who briefly takes on the identity of Captain Britain. So I'd say she's just as much a Captain Britain character as she is X-Men, and Captain Britain is not an X-Men spin-off character, so he should still be owned by Marvel, and so Marvel could argue the case that Psylocke is actually Captain Britain as much as she is X-Men. It would likely be that they can't call her Psylocke or give her her second power set from when she swapped bodies. She will likely just be Betsy Braddock with her original power set, obviously not a mutant, likely an Inhuman instead, because this would obviously follow on from Infinity War and Inhumans. With all the rumours about Fox trying to get X-Men TV shows started up, which they don't have the rights for, it would seem that Marvel may have given them the rights as part of a bargain to get Fantastic Four back, and I think seeing Marvel give Fantastic Four a shot, that could be good. I honestly think the original 2 Fantastic Four films weren't even that bad. I mean, I don't think anyone would argue that the original Fantastic Four films are worse than the new Josh Trank one. I think everyone would say that's horrendous. So I feel with that film's failing, there is a pretty good chance that they could have given that back to Marvel for the much more profitable, in Fox's eyes, X-Men TV rights, or maybe work out some kind of deal so that Fox does still get a slice of the pie when Marvel makes their Fantastic Four film. That remains to be seen, but I think those are kind of the 3 top films I would want to see going forward that aren't about an established character that already exists in the MCU. I mean, obviously I want more Spider-Man films, but who doesn't?